Hello everyone, and welcome to the stream. Like we said last week, we were gonna finish Depression Quest. We went through it for an hour last time, and when we finished, it seemed like things were going better for our protagonist. He was able to open up to some people. He intended to go to a therapist, and actually that's the screen that we're on now. Let's start and see if we can finish Depression Quest tonight. See how the story ends for our nameless protagonist. And if he ends up better than he did when he started. No, I don't believe the name of the protagonist is ever given. It's just an avatar. You can imagine whoever it is you want it to be. But let's get started. Like last time, I'll be reading this out loud. It is an utterly nondescript Wednesday afternoon. The type of afternoon that would completely fade from memory unless one made an active effort to preserve it. As has become routine on Wednesdays, you are sitting on the couch in Dr. Melville's office. To your mild surprise, she begins this session by breaking her characteristic therapist's silence and begins speaking up right away. I wanted to start by saying I think it's great that you decided to come see me. It's an incredibly important first step. She begins. I wanted to take some time today to talk to you about the possibility of supplementing or substituting your treatment with medication. The mention of medication makes your ears perk up and you feel your heart race increasing. She continues. Many people find adding a pharmacological element to their treatment to be very helpful. And some even prefer to take drugs, completely eliminating their need to visit a therapist at all, providing you rely on your support network and are still reaching out to people. I would prefer it if we kept talking should you choose to start medication so that I can monitor your progress and adjust as needed, but the choice is ultimately yours. I just wanted to run the option by you to gauge what your thoughts on the matter might be. Dr. Melville has just given you a lot to think about. What do you do? So, we've been going to therapy, but I guess the concept of pharmaceuticals has not come up yet. As I said, the way votes work now is entering 1, 2, 3, or 4. So 1 is accepting a prescription as a way of augmenting the therapy. The second one is trying drugs instead of therapy, just completely replacing the therapy with drugs. Or 3, not liking the thoughts of taking drugs. 4, just being done with therapy. You're done with it, you think it's not helping, you're out of here. Alright, well it looks like everyone's saying we should take the first option. Let's take the drugs and continue attending our therapy sessions. Perhaps that's the best way to go about it. You think the matter over long and hard. It's strange to think that recently none of this sort of thing was even on your radar. And here you are now, being asked to make a decision about it. You're both skeptical and nervous, and getting over the initial shock of even just talking to a therapist. Still, over the years you've done enough entry-level reading on the subject to know that if it doesn't help, probably won't hurt, right? After an intense and protracted period of internal vacillation, you decide to bite the bullet and go for it. You tell Dr. Melville that you like to try medication in addition to your therapy, and you spend about a half an hour going over what you'll be taking and what you should expect from it. Thinking back on this decision later, you're pretty sure you had your fists tightly clenched the whole way through. So another step taken by our protagonist. The idea of drugs had never really occurred to him, but now he's agreeing to it. It's a Wednesday evening, and you're visiting your parents' house for a holiday. It's one of the handful of times during the year you drive out to visit your old hometown, and you've seen random people you had gone to school with around town. Whenever bumping into them, the usual short versions of what you've done since graduating are exchanged. You've gone through a few of these today, and have been very aware of how much you feel you haven't accomplished. When you were in high school, you had much larger plans. And now you feel like you failed to manifest most of them. Even if you had managed to, you've largely lost interest in what you thought you wanted to do growing up. Now, you're not really sure what you want to do. And you felt like you're lacking the ambition or drive to figure it out. Everyone you've caught up with seems so much happier than you. Like they've got their lives all figured out, and you've been kind of feeling like a failure by comparison. Your brother Malcolm arrives with his wife in tow shortly before you all sit down to dinner. He's been traveling for his job lately, and you haven't seen him since the day he picked you up from the dentist. Your parents haven't seen him since before then. During dinner, they all catch up, and Malcolm talks about their amazing things he's done on the road. Your mother turns to you and asks what you've been up to since you've seen them last. Oh, same old, you say. Nothing really new going on. Your mother makes a face. Oh, nothing new? How long are you planning on staying in that job of yours? What do you say? Well, as we know, our protagonist has trouble opening up to his mother. His mother doesn't really understand the things he's going through. And we know that the protagonist does not feel great about being compared with Malcolm. Malcolm always seems to just be doing better in life, and he seems to be where we should be. It looks like you're saying that we're going to excuse ourselves to the bathroom. Maybe that's the best thing. If we're feeling emotional, maybe we should try to prevent ourselves from opening up in front of everyone. We might end up relieving a lot of frustration towards our mother, and maybe that, maybe that could be good for our protagonist, but maybe we don't want to do that to our mother. That could be the case. Oh yes, I'm sorry, you said 3 as an option 3? Remember that the numbers correspond to active options. I know, well, it's too late now. Because remember, red does not count for a number. Well, it seems... Okay, let's do that again, and let's see what you say. We'll try it again. Remember that the red option is not an option, because we can't choose it, so that means option 2 is actually number 1. Okay. So it looks like you're saying that you're admitting that you don't know what you want to do. Even though I know the options on the screen are numbered, the votes for odd... there might be more than 4 options, we'll just have to see. The votes for odd may really are talking about what we can pick. So we don't know what we want to do. Alright, let's see how that goes. Actually, you start sheepishly, I'm not really sure what I want to do right now. Your mom puts down her fork. So what, you're planning on living the way you do for the rest of your life? How would you afford a house on that paycheck? What about kids? Your father interrupts, lightly placing his hand over your mother's. It's okay, Linda. Let the kids be what they are. There's nothing wrong with not knowing what you want to do in your 20s. I didn't get into construction until I was nearly 40. Your mother looks across the table at you, unsatisfied with her husband's reasoning. I don't think it's normal for someone at that age to not have a path. You need to think hard about it, or you'll never make anything of yourself. Mom, come on. Malcolm interjects. This emotionally exhausts you. You want to tell her that you are thinking hard, and not knowing what you're doing with yourself bothers you more than it would ever bother her. And sometimes it feels like you're lost in the woods, and that if you were to drop dead in your apartment, the world wouldn't notice. You want to make her understand that more often than not, you feel like an alien, like there isn't anywhere in this world that feels like a place where you belong, and you have no idea how to fix it or what to do. You wish you could find the words so that she would understand that being looked down for this kills you, and drives home the feeling of being a total outsider. Instead, you get very quiet for the rest of the meal while your mind goes numb. Everything inside you feels exhausted. So it seems that nothing good came from this. It just wore down our protagonist even more. Let's see how things continue. It's a rainy night. You're hurrying through the rain to Alex's apartment at her behest. Though your pace is quick, the rain is steadily soaking up your pant legs as you traverse the town, and it's darkening your already poor mood. The call came when you were at home after a day of dealing with abnormally frustrating people. You spent the afternoon trying to unwind and get some work on your project done. Alex called and interrupted one of your try to make progress, get frustrated and not making progress, have a harder time making progress due to frustration, repeat loops. And you haven't fully shaken off the feelings of being annoyed with yourself from it yet. You knock on her door, and on the third knock, hear her voice call from further in the apartment to come on in. As you cross the threshold, dripping rainwater all the way, you notice that the lights are turned down very low in the apartment. You squint to navigate it as you clutch to your damp umbrella, but end up hitting your shin on a side table, mumbling a profanity under your breath. You barely make out Alex emerging from the hallway, clad in what looks like to be a robe, with the bare skin of her legs peering out underneath. "Why don't you come in and warm up?" she asks in her designated, slightly cheesy, sexy voice. After a beat of silence, she states more naturally, "My roommates are out of town this weekend, so I thought it might be nice to have a little fun while they're away." You appreciate her affection, but you're too wrapped up in your own negative feedback loops to be in the mood right now. What do? Another choice? Previously, there really has not been too much interaction with Alex. Some people last time were kind of surprised that she was even our girlfriend, apparently. And it looks like that you don't want to push Alex away. You feel that you should try your best. You should try to unwind with her before getting physical. At least I assume that you're choosing that because you're interested in the best interests of our protagonist, not any other reason. Not any other reason at all. You look at her standing, barely lit, and notice there's a few candles scattered around the apartment. It occurs to you that she's tried to make this night special for the two of you. Even though you have a tight knot of antisocial frustration in your stomach, seeing how much she cares makes you want to try to melt it away, so you can show her how much you care that she's gone through all this trouble. However, you desperately need to shift gears first before that's even possible. "You look amazing. Let's have a drink together," you suggest, hoping that this will give you the push you need to get into the mood. You go into the kitchen and pour the two of you drinks, trying to focus on letting go of your bad mood. You sit down on the couch next to her, and she cuddles up to you instantly. "What should we toast to?" she asks as she takes her drink. You think for a moment, passing up the cheesy "to us" option. You say what's on your mind, letting go of your bad day. "To tonight." The two of you cheers, and you ask about her day. Conversation turns flirtatious, and the two of you find yourselves in the bedroom shortly after. You find that you're having trouble getting into things physically with her. And remember that diminished arousal was a possible side effect of your medication. You'd hope that you were part of the population that wouldn't be affected by it, but it seems as though this was not the case. However, you're still able to enjoy the closeness with Alex and fall asleep together happily. Okay, so I guess there were some side effects to the drugs after all, though perhaps not exactly what we had thought. I don't know if our protagonist will feel better or worse after that night. Who can say? It's an early winter evening, and even though it's not particularly late, the time of year has lent the sky an almost prematurely darkened cast. Day after day, just like tonight, you trudge home from a job you have increasingly come to hate. On your day, your job misery seems to have reached critical mass, and not even shedding your rain-laden and uncomfortable work clothes helps you to unwind from your workday. You collapse into your couch, blank and numb. While your job always seemed to just be an unpleasant reality of existence, it was a position you sort of fell into unexpectedly, never intending to work there long term, It's getting harder and harder to keep it up. While it's certainly not your dream job, you've always just sort of stuck it out out of necessity before, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to do that. Though you couldn't even begin to imagine what else you could do. You find yourself face to face with a question you just can't ignore. Is your complacency worth the price of this level of misery? What do you do? So now we're talking about our job. We knew that our protagonist did not like his job. But now it looks like that he's seriously considering trying to move on. Should he just keep on going while trying to figure out what to do next? Or should he start focusing on just getting a new job right away? Or the last option, just do nothing, ignore it, as our protagonist is very good at doing, as we know. I guess it could be a she. I don't remember if they specified. I don't remember now. But it looks like number 3 is taking it. So it looks like you're saying that our protagonist should aimlessly look through classifieds for another job. Just to make sure that is what you meant? You did mean that? So, let's continue. You boot up your computer and navigate to the local Craigslist. You sift through a myriad of legitimate postings, clear pyramid scams, and the occasional miscategorized random personal ad. You look through the section that is in line with your current job and start feeling a bit of despair. Would things really be any different if you were simply doing the same thing somewhere else? You email your resume to a few of the postings after coming up with a cover letter that you could use for a variety of things. After you've exhausted the postings for the last few days, you head back to the main page. There's a section that's more in line with the project you've been doing, though it's a highly competitive creative field that you don't feel remotely qualified for. Despite that, you click on the section. Scrolling through the postings, you daydream about actually holding a position where you would get to do something more meaningful. Despite feeling completely intimidated by the requirements, you find a listing you actually do want to apply for. You spend an hour crafting a really personal cover letter, really giving your all to the task, and nervously send off the email. You're rather convinced that you'll never hear back from any of these places, but the act of trying to change your situation instead of stewing on it actually feels quite freeing. You find yourself trying to stifle the hope that you end up getting the creative job, but it still manages to bubble up anyway. So that was good, actually. He took a step towards trying to get a better job. He actually puts forth some effort into it. Even if there's no response, at least, effort is made. And really, if you are in a job that you don't like, really, you have to make that effort. Otherwise, how can things ever change? It's a little past 8 p.m. on a Tuesday night. You're at your computer, frustration levels peaked, rubbing your eyes and sighing heavily. You're working on a project from your job that you stretch to wit's end trying to meet a looming deadline, and as it lurks closer and closer, you're seriously doubting your ability to get it done. You've dragging your feet a little at work due to your complete lack of energy lately, in spite of wanting to do a good job. You find yourself unable to push past it and feel horribly useless for it. You slide your hands off your face to look at your screen as it beeps at you. An Attic is IMing us. Hey, are you there? I really need to talk to someone about something. You feel like you're getting nowhere with your current task and could probably use a break. However, you know that you have a history of getting distracted and then losing motivation to pick something back up again afterward. What do you do? Okay, so do we respond to our friend? Or do we feel that if we do that, maybe we won't get back to work, and we do need to get back to work? But he is our friend, or she. I don't know if they specified that either. And it looks like you're saying we should answer Attic. You're feeling like you've hit a brick wall with your task, so why not take a break and help out a friend? Hey, what's up? Oh good, you're there. I just found out I got cheated on. I don't know what to do. Oh no, that's horrible. The two of you talk for a long time, and you lend a shoulder to your friend. You give him space to rant, to cry, and most importantly, to be able to voice his inner turmoil. You give him your full attention and talk him through what his options are for what he does next. You keep him from doing something rash, and the two of you decide it's best for him to sleep on it before doing anything. Exhausted, he departs for bed and thanks you for being there to talk with him. As you close the IM window, you feel horribly sorry for your friend, but happy that you were able to help. It serves as a tangible reminder to you that you're capable of being useful to someone instead of solely being a mess that needs everyone else's help. You boot up your work project and find that you're suddenly able to get some solid progress done on it that night. So that turned out very well. Not for Attic, but hey, we were actually able to help someone. You know, maybe we feel that we're not such a mess, that we're able to offer something to someone else, that we have some value, that we made someone else's life maybe a little bit better, and it seems to be reflected in our work. And yes, Hugs Bosun is a great username. Whoops. Why did I do that? There's no vote here, it's just going next. And it's a tie. Everyone won with 0 votes. Let's continue. It's a sunny Saturday afternoon. You're in deep thought on the way home from therapy. However, you notice this time that you're not in the same negative feedback loops that you usually get trapped in when being this introspective. You realize that, although you still have your bad days, your lows aren't quite as low as they used to be. Your antidepressants bottle rolls across your dashboard as you take a left turn. You've been on this medication for quite a while now after a period of trying a few different kinds. Though you still have minor side effects, they've overall become an unnoticed part of your life. You feel as if your life has generally changed for the better recently, and you begin to wonder if you even need them anymore. You don't feel as much despair or hopelessness, and you hate yourself a lot less these days. Maybe it's time to stop taking these, you think. I seem to really not need them anymore. What do? Okay, so, do we stop taking our meds? We're considering it. Okay, looks like overwhelmingly voting that we should keep taking our meds. At least, keep taking them unless we speak to our therapist. You have the realization that you can't be sure if it's a general life change that's making you feel better, or if it's just a sign that the medication is working. You decide against discontinuing your meds. It's not really a lesson you'd like to learn the hard way, and the side effects of this particular kind are negligible. Negligible. I always have trouble pronouncing that word. The next time you see Dr. Melville, you tell her about this. She informs you that this is a common train of thought that people who have begun using medication to help them manage their depression experience, and that you've managed to dodge a bullet because it generally ends poorly. She also asks you to talk to her first before making any decisions about your medication in the future. Good job. It looks like you made the right decision. We're not going to take that particular decision in our hands. And thank you for telling me how to pronounce negligible. It's yet another sleepless Thursday night. You're at Alex's apartment, wide awake in bed as she's sleeping peacefully beside you. She fell asleep hours ago, and you've been laying there unable to shut your brain up long enough to fall asleep. You've added the feelings of insecurity about your relationship to the rest of the noise in your head keeping you up tonight. It was kind of a tense night between the two of you. You've arrived after a stressful day at work, and as you made dinner together, you barely said a word. You were stuck in your own head and had a hard time really being present with her as your thoughts turned to all of the ways you feel like you're deficient at being a good person and beating yourself up mentally for each one. She told you that she could tell you were in one of your moods and that she wouldn't push you, but missed talking to you as the two of you sat on the couch together. You wanted to tell her how much you love her, but you couldn't make the words come out right. It ended up sounding defensive instead. As you lay there next to her now, you trace your fingers across her arm just lightly enough not to wake her. You still haven't explained your depression to her, or how you started seeing a therapist, or that you've been taking medication, and it's starting to feel more and more like a secret you're keeping instead of something she simply doesn't know about you yet. It's becoming more and more apparent that it's impacting your relationship with her, and you feel guilty about this. However, you're also terrified that if she knew exactly how fucked up you are, that she would leave you. You're already worried that she's only with you because she doesn't realize how terrible a person you are yet, and you're afraid that this would be the final thing to expose you. She stirs in her sleep and squints as she opens her eyes. With the confusion that comes with waking up, she asks you if you're awake, and then if everything's okay. Well, they did say we do have our bad days, and it looks like this is one of them. Do we tell her about our situation, or tell her that it's nothing, just keep it to ourselves? Okay, it looks like everyone's saying that we need to open up with her. She is our girlfriend, and we haven't told her anything about what's been going on with the therapist, with our situation, and that is something that we need to tell her about if this is going to continue. You feel like a jerk for accidentally waking her up, but you're afraid if you put this off any longer, you won't find the strength to tell her everything later. No, actually, everything isn't okay. Can I tell you something? Something important? Alex sits up, rubbing the sleep out of her eyes. For the rest of the night, you lay side by side, holding hands, as you tell her everything. You tell her how it's more than just feeling sad sometimes, how you feel trapped by your own mind sometimes, how sometimes you feel nothing at all, and how you can't shake it off. You tell her how you've started going to therapy, how you feel embarrassed about it, and how it's working out for you. She listens the entire time, occasionally asking questions about how this or that works, or asking you to explain something further. She squeezes your hand and tells you she understands, and she's sad that you didn't tell her sooner. After laying silent for a moment, the weight of what you did hits you. You desperately want her to say something, to tell you how she's feeling about all this, but you're too afraid of what the answer would be to ask. You start convincing yourself that now that she knows everything, she's going to leave. There's no way someone could deal with how you really are. So, how can I help? What do you need me to do? She asks. You think for a second, and the answer you come up with fills you with despair. I honestly don't know. I wish I knew how to fix this, but I don't know that you can do anything. I think it's just something I have to live with. She looks at you with sad eyes before kissing you on the forehead. Then I'll live with it with you. I don't know how you could possibly love me. She rolls over and wraps her arms around your neck, setting her head on top of yours. You don't need to. Just know that I do. And so it seems that our situation has improved again, as now we've opened up to Alex. It's a Friday night, and you're laying across your bed, feeling pathetic. As you were leaving work tonight, a group of coworkers asks you if you wanted to join them for drinks. Feeling antisocial and put on the spot, you declined. You have a habit of doing this. You're often so convinced that you're weird and terrible that any invitation to hang out will end up in disappointment for those inviting you. You never feel like you know how to act in group outings, and you feel like a total creep since it seems to come so naturally to anyone who isn't you. You find yourself petrified of breaking some unknown social rule that you don't often go out. Now, however, you find yourself alone at home. Your brain has begun telling you how pathetic and sad you are for being unable to just be a normal person and go out with nice people. You can't figure out why you can't just go out and meet people and enjoy yourself. At the same time, you're also feeling like no one would possibly want to hang out with you if they really knew you. Just because you're dull and weird anyway. You try your typical strategy and boot up Netflix to distract yourself from these feelings, but frustration with yourself builds, and you realize you have to do something else with your night. Anything else to take your mind off how awful and lonely you feel right now. What do? Uh-oh, 5 choices. How will we overcome this problem? Okay, let's say we are doing the first 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do 6 separately. So, vote for 2, 3, 4, 5 now. 6 will come after. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is most people so far are voting for call Alex, call her girlfriend. I'm going to end this vote here. Whoops. Now the new vote is between the winner, call Alex, which is number 1, and play with your cat, number 2. Alex 1, cat 2. I might need to add a 5th choice to Odd Me to see, just in case we have situations like this again. Yeah, this is kind of what I thought. I kind of guessed that play with your cat was going to be the overwhelming winner. Though Alex has more support than I thought. Okay. Yeah, Alex got a lot of votes, but the overwhelming tide of play with your cat was just too much. No one could overcome that. Nights like this, you're very glad that you made the call to become a cat owner. Feeling too socially burnt out to interact with other people, you go find your cat. You get her to chase a laser pointer for a solid 30 minutes before she tires herself out. She pads over to you and collapses in a heap in your lap, purring loudly. Though initially she hated being picked up, you carry her to the computer desk with you, and she doesn't object. Sitting her down in your lap, you comfortably surf the internet for a while before heading to bed. Having her there with you has a calming effect, and it makes you feel a lot less alone. So it was a good choice last time to become a cat owner. It's a cold Saturday afternoon. You've just arrived at Alex's apartment, and you're happy to finally see her after a week of absence due to your schedules not lining up due to work and school. You hug her in the doorway, but she breaks away sooner than normal and sits down on the couch, and you take off your sneakers and lay them in the usual place, right next to hers. There's something I was hoping we could talk about, actually, she says. You instantly worry that you're being blindsided by a breakup conversation due to the sudden shift in tone, but she quickly smiles and puts you at ease once she sees all the color leave your face. It's nothing bad, I promise. With that, she leads you over to the couch and sits on the other end of it, facing you. So, I hope this doesn't freak you out, and if you feel like things are going too fast, just tell me. She talks faster than usual and fidgets. We seem to have a lot of weeks like this, and they really suck. I was thinking I'd ask, since things are so strong with us, what are your thoughts on maybe moving in together? It takes a few seconds to sink in, and leaves you a bit shocked when it does. You were worried that she wanted to spend less time with you, not more. Do you want to? You ask. Well, yeah, I do. I mean, we have to sort out logistics and everything, but those are all things we can take care of. You start to walk through the steps of imagining the two of you living together. You love the thought of being able to wake up next to her every day and seeing her so often. However, the more you picture it, the more a few concerns become apparent. There are things she is insulated from, like the days you don't feel like you can even get out of bed, the nights your medication keeps you from being able to sleep, all of those moments you're stuck staring at the wall, completely out of energy and feeling nothing. How would she handle that? How quickly would she want to get away? So, she starts, what do you think? Well, we did open up to her before, so she does have an idea of what it is we're going through. This would not come as a complete surprise. Okay, it looks like most everyone is saying that we should go with that we have concerns, but we're going to discuss them honestly. Probably the most pragmatic thing to do. You're really worried that if Alex were to live with you, she wouldn't be able to deal with your days of being unable to get out of bed or nights where you can do nothing but stare at the wall and panic. Even though you've discussed your situation with her, you still fear that she doesn't realize the depths of how bad it gets. It's one thing for you to detail how you feel sometimes, and for her to see it pop up occasionally. It's an entirely different situation for it to be something she has to live with alongside you. Well, I'd like to, but I think it's best if we talk about it a bit more before committing to a decision. Though she seems a little defeated, you make it clear that you're not making excuses, and actually mean that you want to talk. You reiterate a lot of what you told Alex that night, and although she gets a little defensive and tells you that she knows all of that already, she confirms that she's willing to help you sort through your issues. I feel like you forget I love you sometimes. I know that there will be bad days. I'd rather try to work through them with you. We can figure all of this out, together. Her words sway you, and you can't help but hold her close to you. So the decisions we've been making so far have just all been generally positive. I mean, if we look at the status windows here, it says we're doing well. We're still visiting the therapist, and she's remarked on how much more alive we seem. We're taking the medication, and we're pleased at how well it's working. It's December. Oh, there's that picture. It's December, and you've returned to your parents' house to celebrate the holidays with your family. That could be bad. Our visits with our families have never really gone so well so far. At the living room window, you can see a gentle flurry of snow drifting down to meet the pristine blanket of white from yesterday's unexpected Christmas Eve snowfall, and you quietly laugh to yourself at how incredibly cliché it seems. Still, as you sit down to dinner, you can't help but notice how being surrounded by family and the overly kitschy atmosphere your mom's decorations have created actually made you feel relaxed and almost comfortable. Your mom is running around frantically checking the oven and the stockings, just generally trying to family time it up, while your dad sits at the head of the table drinking a beer and laughing with your brother Malcolm. His wife Karen is there too, who you've always gotten along well with, and your parents even agreed to let you bring your kitten along. She's been darting in and out of people's legs and hopping into laps all night. As you thoughtfully munch away at your turkey, listening to the conversations around you, your thoughts drift past over the last few months. You think about how hard things have gotten, replaying over in your head some of your worst, as well as some of your best, memories. It seems like all these things just came to a head over the past few months, with a sudden flurry of relationship turmoil and professional anxiety, social stress, and above all, an omnipresent sense of weight that it seems you've just recently become aware of. You've drawn out your reverie by your dad's familiar booming laugh at some cheesy comment Malcolm made. Seems to have made its mark. Sitting at that table, you're suddenly immensely glad for the chance to be able to ignore everything for an evening and not have to struggle trying to explain yourself for once. Fortunately, everyone seems to be content with laughing at each other's jokes and discussing favorite sports teams, and for a while, you think you'll be able to get through dinner without any embarrassing personal intrusions. But no sooner did that thought cross your mind than the table conversation trickles off, leading a slightly awkward silence to descend upon the dinner. "So, how are you doing these days?" your mom asks you pointedly. It's such a simple question, and one that you seem to have had to answer countless times recently. You take a moment to collect your thoughts, then looking up, you take a deep breath. Well, you've never really thought of yourself as a fighter, and even to say it now, it sounds hokey. But looking back on the past few months to where you are now, it really does feel like you've endured an immense struggle. And looking at you are now with a sense of something, it isn't quite pride. You still hate your job and find it unpleasant, but you're surprised to find that going into work every day is no longer a monumental challenge. You started adopting some clever techniques, like taking short 2-minute breaks every hour to break up the monotony, and you now view your job as just 8 short hours of your day, a compartmentalization technique Dr. Melville told you about that you've actually found works quite well. You know this job isn't what you want to do for the rest of your life, and you've actively started looking for other positions, even attending a couple preliminary interviews. You've started making effort to go out with your friends more. While the social scene still makes you very uncomfortable sometimes, you're more and more able to let yourself just enjoy the company of your friends. In fact, your relationship with many of them has increased over the past little while. You still definitely have days where you flake out or don't feel up to hanging out, but for the most part, your friends are understanding and appreciate your communication. By far, the biggest change you've noticed in your life has been in your relationship with Alex. You're terrified of talking to her about everything at first, but looking back, you feel like it's only strengthened your relationship. She was always supportive of you emotionally, but lately the two of you have been even more in sync, and it's starting to really feel like you're building a life together. It even seems like the two of you have been making a more concerted effort to sync up your schedules, and have been spending more and more of your downtime with each other. Pretty soon, you think moving in together may be a very real possibility. Dr. Melville has commented on how well you seem to be doing, and whether a result of the therapy or the medication or both, you can't help but agree. With all that seems to have improved recently, it's sometimes difficult for you to think about the fact that you still have bad days, sometimes even really bad days. They serve as a stark reminder of the fact that this will be something you will likely have to deal with for the rest of your life. Depression is a battle, and even though you're certainly ahead in the fight, you know the battle isn't ever going to be over. Sometimes even Alex can tell when things are going rough, despite your best efforts to the contrary. While you know your depression can never be cured, you have a very strong support network in your friends, and even Malcolm. And armed with a newfound confidence in your friends and family, you accept that though the road may be rocky, is at the very least not solitary. You meet your mom's gaze from across the table, and muster up a smile. "I'm good, Mom," you tell her. She says nothing, but you can feel her smile from across the room. And that's the end of Depression Quest. As it says here, the creators of the game thanking you for playing. As it says, Depression Quest does not really have an end, because of course depression itself does not. And I'd like to thank you for indulging me on letting me play Depression Quest on the stream and going along with this. It was just something that I wanted to do. It's different, I know. Not really at all similar to anything we ever do on the stream. It's a bit, just both in terms of being interactive fiction and also being of a more serious subject matter than anything else we do. It's a lot less silly than something like Dinner Date, which was also kind of about depression, but in a kind of a stupid way. And hold on, time for credits roll. There we go. So that's it for Depression Quest. Just something I wanted to do. I think that it might be possible that we would do other interactive fiction sometime in the future. Or even if we didn't, I'm glad that we got to do this one. Now, since you indulged me in letting me play Depression Quest on the stream and going along with this, I thought that I might indulge you and play on the stream the dumbest game I've ever played, which a number of people have asked me to do for a little while. So, when we come back, it's time for something very different from Depression Quest. Something completely different, and something just utterly, utterly stupid. So, we'll be right back